Hi, my name is Jessie, and today I'm going to tell you a story. It's the story about my Crohn's disease. It's kind of a long story, and it's a little bit sad, and I'm doing this completely unedited, so please forgive me if I stutter a little or get some weird speech impediment at times, because sometimes that happens when I'm talking. I'm doing this straight off the top of my head. Sorry for the lack of facts, and if you really want to know something, just comment on the video, and I'll see what I can find for you. But anyways, started when I was 12, and I was getting kind of sick, and this was in 2004, and I had to go to the bathroom all the time. I had really, really bad diarrhea, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but that's how it is, and that's how all Crohn's and colitis sufferers have it, and that's how it starts, is with diarrhea. And unfortunately, I didn't grow up in a very caring and sharing sort of environment family, and I didn't tell my dad about it, because it was just me, my dad, and my brother. I didn't tell him about it for the first 6 months that I was getting these symptoms. And I just tried to play it off, and I was just like, it'll get better, it's fine. And of course it didn't, and on Christmas Day that year, I fainted, and I had a mild seizure. And I didn't end up going to the hospital for it, because after that happened, I was completely fine. I felt okay, what else could you do? And I went to go stay with my mom for a week, and she lives in Seattle. And while I was there, I was getting sick again. I had flu-like symptoms, but so did my brother. So, we pass it off as, oh, they just both have the flu. That's what happens. But on my way back to go home, we stopped at a gas station, and we were waiting in a rather long lineup to go into the bathrooms, and I fainted in this gas station. And the paramedics had to be called, and they didn't really know what was going on, and since we were traveling, they just said, throw it in the front seat and tilt it back and just tell her to sip 7-Up or whatever and go see a doctor when you get home. So we did go see a doctor. We actually ended up going into the emergency room. And the doctor looked at my chart and looked at my symptoms and said, wow, it sure sounds like you have colitis. Which is not technically true, but you'll know later at the end of the story. So he recommends us to a surgeon, and the surgeon sends me in for a colonoscopy, and surprise, surprise, they say, oh yes, you have colitis. And for the first year or so, I had colitis. I tried a whole bunch of different pills, and they weren't working. And I got really sick and ended up in the hospital one time, and I was flown down to the children's hospital. And I spent 10 days there where they, fed me, and they got me relatively back to normal and sent me home. But of course, I didn't stay that way, and I got really sick again. And I got a mild case of jaundice and began to become malnourished, which put me in the hospital again. And they had to start feeding me through a tube in my nose called an NG tube. And it's like they put this white, creamy liquid in a bag, and that's what goes into your stomach. And it's like a lot of calories. It's kind of like drinking those Ensures or whatever they're called. Anyways, they were doing that, and I still wasn't really getting better. So I talked to a different surgeon and a pediatrician, and they said, I think we should try giving you this surgery. And it wasn't just one surgery, it was 3 surgeries. So what the first surgery would do was take out my colon, which was the infected part of my intestines for my colitis. Okay, for those of you that don't know, colitis is an inflammatory bowel disease. So basically, it's all it doesn't work. Your intestines don't work. That's the problem, right? So anyways, the first surgery would get rid of my entire colon, because my entire colon was infected, and leave me with something called an ileostomy. So basically, they take the end of my small intestine and they sew it to the outside of my stomach, and then I wear a plastic removable appliance or a bag, and that's how I would go poo. And that's whatever. And the second one, they would go in and they would create something called a J pouch with my small intestine, so that when I got the third surgery, I would no longer have to have a bag. So I got the first surgery done, and everything was great. I had my bag, I gained a little bit of my weight back, which wasn't exactly the greatest thing because I'm a little bit overweight, but I was healthy and I didn't care and I was happy. And then it came time to have the second surgery, and I got really sick after my second surgery, which caused the doctors to say, well, why don't we just try the reversal a lot sooner than we had originally intended, which was a very bad idea because after this surgery, I did my recovery and I left the hospital. I was out of the hospital for about a week and I had to go back because I was still very, very, very sick, and that they found out from that I was going into septic shock and that my kidneys were failing. And I don't really remember a lot of this part of the story because I was drugged and out of it. They had me taking, IV morphine and IV Gravol and 5 different kinds of antibiotics, and like, it was just a haze. And so I had to get a fourth surgery, which didn't leave me with another ostomy bag. It was an emergency surgery to clean up what was going on or whatever in there. And I didn't even make it out of the hospital this time because they had to do a fifth surgery, which did leave me with another bag. And my doctor said, okay, you know what? And then after this, I started to get better again, right? And they said, okay, don't ask us for the reversal for a while, not until you're 19. And at the time, I was only 16, which was, I didn't care because, I was healthy again. I had gained my weight back again, and I was doing okay. But the way my ostomy bag sat on my skin and on my stomach wasn't working. They left it underneath a scar, like there was scarring around my stoma, which is the piece of the intestine sticking out, and my bags wouldn't sit properly, and I had chronic leaking problems with my bags, which sucks. You imagine like spilling some chili on your shirt and then having to have, to be sitting in a chili covered shirt all day. Okay, well, if my bag leaked, I'd have shit on my shirt for, for however long it would take for me to go and get a new shirt. But, if I was a smart ostomy patient, I would always have extra clothes and an extra bag with me, but I was a teenager, and sometimes I just didn't think of it. Anyways, so that led to my sixth surgery, which was another reversal, which also, well, it worked at first. I can't say it didn't really work, but something went wrong inside, and a piece of my intestine where it was sewn up from whatever surgery split open and began leaking bodily fluids into my abdominal cavity, and first started to infect my tailbone with osteomyelitis, which is a bone infection. And from what I've read on Wikipedia, I don't know if this is actually true or not, osteomyelitis has a 50-50 survival rate, as well as septic shock, which I had previously. Anyways, so I didn't know that what it was, and I was getting these pains in my tailbone, and I'd had them before because I slouch. And I'm really bad for that, and I shouldn't, but I do. So, I went to the doctor about it, and he said he didn't really say anything. And then it started to get worse, and it was starting to spread into my right hip. So we went to the emergency room, and I had to go into the emergency room 5 times over the course of 9 months. And every single visit to the emergency room was an x-ray, an IV to get rehydrated because I was dehydrated because I wasn't eating because I was getting sick, right? And sending me home with a round of antibiotics. The antibiotics would work while I was on them, and as soon as I was finished taking them, I'd start getting the pain again. And by the end of the 9 months, it had spread into my left hip as well. My other doctor, like my family doctor, said he thought it was bursitis, and I became addicted to Tylenol arthritis, which wasn't good. And finally, one day, my brother and his girlfriend were sitting in his room, and I was walking out of the bathroom and on my way to go and lay on the couch. which is kind of what I made my home, because the only time I was ever comfortable was in a very, very specific position on this couch. And I couldn't make it. I fell over and my back was spasming, and I just started crying uncontrollably, and I didn't know what was wrong. And my brother said, "You know what? I'm taking you to the hospital. I don't care. We're going to find out what's wrong with you." And it's a good thing he did. So we went into the hospital that night, and my brother told him everything, and we told him about the 5 other emergency room visits, and we're like, there's something wrong, and we want to know what it is before we leave. And so we did a CT scan, which showed the infection in my entire pelvis. And the doctor said, I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a chance you might die. So, as scary as that was, they admitted me to the hospital right away, and I went up to the floor or whatever that I was on. They started me on antibiotics, and they were pumping me just full of fluids. And for some reason, it was going into my legs, and my legs gained each 10 pounds, just in my legs, full of fluid for some odd reason. And my surgeon comes back in, and he's like, "No, we have to do another surgery on you. You're not okay." And I don't know what they did in the ways of fixing my osteomyelitis, but they also gave me another bag. And when I came through this surgery, my surgeon said, "You know what? It's Crohn's disease. I hate to say this, but you're going to be stuck with your bag for the rest of your life. There's nothing you can do about it, and you just have to accept it. There's chances for you to relapse and have problems with your Crohn's again, but as far as I'm concerned, we're going to get you well, and hopefully you're going to go into remission." And fortunately for me, I have been in remission for 5 years now, which is pretty sweet, I think. And, going on 10 years of having IBD, but I'm doing okay. And actually, I'm doing better than okay. I'm doing great. I have a family now. I've got my fiance, and I've got 3 dogs. I've got a good job, going to school. I'm being the best me I can be. I had 2 different doctors tell me I wouldn't live to see the age of 18, and now I am 21 years old. So, suck on that, doctors. Anyways, I hope that the story made some sort of sense, and I hope if you are an IBD sufferer, a Crohn's sufferer, or you have an ostomy bag, that, you understand it'll get better. You might be sick now, and there'll be days where you don't want to get off the couch, and you'd rather stay home and watch The Price is Right and sleep all day, and that's okay. That's going to be part of our life forevermore. But then there's the other days when we're perfectly okay, and this experience will change all of us, and it's changed me, I know, for the better. I'm a much better person than I was before. Anyways, thanks for listening. Bye. And if you want to, subscribe. That'd be really cool. Okay, bye.